Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gnostic Warrior radio show and podcast, broadcasting from GnosticWarrior.com in San Diego, California, to around the world. I'm your host, Mo, and today on the show we have Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. He is the author of the Alien Scriptures and has been featured in the hit TV show Ancient Aliens. He brings his message to the Gnostic Warrior audience that the Bible is a document of UFO-ET interaction with people in the Holy Land. It's great to talk to him today. How you doing out there in Ashville, North Carolina, Reverend Carter?
Yes, how are you? Oh, listen, life is kind. I'm here in the mountains of western North Carolina, and it's a beautiful fall day, not winter yet. It's sunshiny. It's breezy though. It's pretty chilly, but I love the autumn. So I'm just as happy as a pig, and you know what?
That's good. It's beautiful here. I'm in, Southern California, and we're also having a nice fall day as well.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Have you always lived in North Carolina?
Well, I'm from Baltimore originally, moved to New York City, lived in Manhattan for 25 years, and Brooklyn for 2. Came here, started a family, and been here for the most part happily ever after. I miss New York sometimes, but I do get time to go back there, when we're shooting the Ancient Alien series, and I'm going to try and get up there in the next few months just to visit some friends.
Good. And did you go to North Carolina to slow down a little bit there in the mountains? Was that the purpose?
Well, it probably turned out that way. Even how life is. We wanted to start a family. It was too expensive to live in New York, and we wanted more room. So came down here, and believe it or not, it is slower. I can't deny that. But I'm almost just as busy being a dad, running back and forth to things with my daughter and wife, and working at the church, et cetera, et cetera. So life is full, but I get to see a little more of nature here. I see deer, I see bears once in a while, turkeys, raccoons. You don't see all that in Manhattan.
No.
You barely get a chance to see the sky, so I'm happy here.
Yeah, you would think if you're going to be busy, even though you're busy with the family, and I'm sure you were busy when you were in Manhattan and New York, is that you might as well see some beautiful nature in between those busy moments, and I'm sure you get some days off where you could spend time with your family in that same environment. So I bet it's a beautiful life.
You know what? We're really fortunate, and I'm really grateful for that.
Great. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself before your work now with your book, The Alien Scriptures, and your work with Ancient Aliens? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Okay.
Grew up in Baltimore, moved to New York. I'll give you the truncated version, to pursue a career in the theater. Now, I always knew I was going to be a minister, a priest, or maybe even a secular priest. I always knew I'd be in front of audiences giving a message. I don't know whether that's a bleed-through from another time. I just felt very comfortable doing that. But had a career in the theater. Didn't get to be Denzel Washington, but it all worked out. I learned a lot. I get a pension when I'm 62. I'm in all the unions, but I wanted to serve. And it's hard trying to serve humanity in some way when, if you're not a big star or even a medium-type range star, if you will, for lack of a better word, because you're always trying to find work as an actor. You're always trying to promote yourself. And I was always interested in religion and philosophy, and I just grew more and more unhappy. Maybe I became less narcissistic, who knows, because you got to have some narcissism to want to be in that profession. And, I was good at what I did, but it just wasn't fulfilling me. A friend of mine told me about a seminary called the new seminary, Interfaith Temple. It was comparative religion studies, which I loved. At that time, I was going through this phase where I knew there were I was exploring other paths other than Christianity, and I went there. And while I was going to seminary for 2 years, I still worked as an actor to bring in some money. And then when I got ordained back in 1994, I needed a degree because this wasn't a degree program. And I went to Union Theological Seminary and graduated there in 2000. I was 44 years old when I graduated. And so I just moved on from there, worked as a hospital chaplain, had my contact experiences, which really changed my life. And then this book actually began as my master's thesis in seminary. And I just expanded on it and just went on with my life. And, of course, there's a lot of things that happened in between there, but that's the truncated version to how I got to where I am. Met my wife, who's a Southerner, met her in New York. She's a Unitarian Universalist minister as well. And we moved down here and started a family.
How cool. That's a great story. And what's unique is that while you're going to school, you have a extraterrestrial contact with yourself. So this kind of changes your views about the whole enchilada, per se, that you start to go down a different path, even though you're going down the same path as far as serving God, but you're also going down a different knowledge path that, before might be considered heretic, of course, in a, in the Catholic religion. But can you tell us a little bit about this experience that you had?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say, when I got to seminary, most of the books that they had already had me read, I already read. And also, but I was more into esoteric. I was reading stuff on the Knights Templar. I happen to be a 32nd degree Mason and a Scottish Rite, and there's an equivalent degree where there's a Templar degree. I don't know if you know anything about the Masons, but so I read stuff on the Masons and the Rosicrucians and of course the traditional stuff. And basically, the more I got into more metaphysics, Rosicrucianism, that kind of thing, the more open I got. And what's the old saying? How can you keep them down on the farm? Once they've seen parish, And so it just made me want to study more and more and more. Within December 28th, 1989, so this was actually before seminary, but I was on the Yucatan Peninsula with my partner at the time. She and I had gone there, and we went to see the pyramids at Chichen Itza and Tulum. I want to just let you know that prior to that, I'm not a Trekkie. I'm still not a Trekkie. I wasn't very much into science fiction. I wasn't into science fiction at all, as a matter of fact. Did not have any really UFO beliefs prior to this, and came back to New York. I was tired, but I was tanned. I wanted to kind of show off my tan since everybody else was freezing their you-know-what off in New York. A friend of mine had a party in Times Square. I didn't want to go, but I promised him I would come there about 90 minutes. Didn't taste anything to drink. I think I had some potato salad. He had a lot of food. And about after 90 minutes, I said, look, man, I'm tired. I showed up. We'll talk. I got to go home. So I went home, got the subway, went back home, lived on the Upper West Side at the time. And that evening, went to bed, probably around 12, 1. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and my room was lit up with this bluish white kind of light. I mean, like daylight. And as if a helicopter was shining into my room, but the light was a very bluish white tint. And at the edge of my bed, there was a being, a chalk white, wasn't gray, with a pear-shaped head that kind of wrapped around Ray-Ban eyes, and this kind of form-fitting silver suit, kind of like what you see NASCAR drivers wear, but really, really tight. And I thought my heart was going to come out of my chest. I stared at this being. It stared at me. I pulled the covers back up over my head like any macho man would do. And believe me, I'm far from macho. And I heard this whoosh, whoosh, and I felt like I was outside, and it was freezing outside. The temperature had just changed drastically. And then I pulled the covers down. I was in my room. Quiet. My partner at the time was out, would not wake up at all. Until later, obviously. And that was my first conscious encounter. Looking back, what is it? The Danish theologian Kierkegaard said, life is lived forward but understood backwards. I started remembering some of these things from childhood. But that's another story when I was 7, 8 years old. But this started this whole transformation with me. It started, of course, I went to a psychiatrist because I thought I was crazy. I talk about this in the book. And we found out that I wasn't. And even to this day, not as much. I still sleep with the lights on until it's almost ready. I'm almost ready to go to sleep, but not as much. I've lost my fear a great deal. It's still there to a degree, but not for different reasons, I guess. And basically that reason is when you wake up in the middle of the night and your doors and windows are shut and you see someone in your room. I think anybody, the first initial would be, they may be some fear, but not so much as, well, what are they going to do to me? Are they going to hurt me? Because they haven't. But that was the beginning of a long journey that continues now. About 15, 20 years ago, when I was on the UFO lecture circuit in the area, I would never talk about my experiences. I would only talk about my hypothesis about major religions, monotheism being, influenced by ancient astronauts. But I would never say what happened. My first publisher, Blue Star Productions, a little mom and pop production house out in Arizona, since retired. They've retired. When I did the first edition of the book, she said, Michael, you really need to tell people about your experiences. It would just enhance the book. And so I came out of the closet, if you will, during the first edition of the book. And it was interesting to find out how many other people had experiences once I had opened up. But it was definitely a period of high strangeness. But now I don't even worry about it anymore. But times have changed as well.
Yeah, Rev Carter, what do you think is the apprehension? Here you are, a man that is writing a book actually about the same subject that you had your own experiences with, but you were very apprehensive to come out into the public with your experience. And I'm sure there's many other people out there that haven't come forth with this type of truth that have had similar experiences. Why is that, do you think?
Well, like I say, the times have changed, but it was just, I think the obvious thing was just ridicule. It was, we weren't as accepting now. I mean, now a show like Ancient Aliens is one of the hottest shows on TV, so it just goes to show you how times have changed. There are people in the military, high-ranking officials coming out talking about their own experiences, so things have shifted. At the time, 15, 20 years ago, that was not the case. And, I wanted to work. I needed a job. I had to keep all those things in mind. So it was just a change in consciousness, not only of myself, but of the times.
Gotcha. And what you wrote your thesis while in college?
I wrote my thesis in seminary.
Oh, in seminary.
My master's thesis in order to graduate was this topic. It was called UFOs, the possibility of extraterrestrial life in the Bible. And they accepted it, and I give them kudos, because there are many places of higher education would have said, really, that's your topic. But they embraced it, and a couple of my professors, who I don't know, maybe they were just being kind, but they asked me to stay on and maybe do a doctorate. They seemed to be very fascinated with the topic, but I didn't want to be the age I am now, just getting out of seminary with school loans to pay. I'm already paying back school loans, but it was well received, which was great, because you want to get your thesis and get out of there in 3 years, and that's what I wanted to do. So that was really the beginning of the journey.
And this book, Alien Scriptures, which can you tell us a little bit about it, what the main thesis of the book is, and what people can expect to find in there?
Well, again, they will find, and of course I'm not the only person who is saying it now, but there are not many theologians talking about it, or I'm flattering myself, I'm not a theologian, let's say clergy people talking about it, but there are a few. Basically, I am saying that what we know now about intelligent life on other planets, that these visits have been going on probably since prehistory. Every cosmology, Hindu, whether it's Native American spirituality, every tradition has a story about beings coming down from the sky and influencing civilization, giving a set of rules and laws, teaching spiritual truths. And I'm saying that Judaism, Christianity, and of course I've added a chapter in the second edition on Islam, are no exceptions. And that if we read these scriptures carefully, if we read Judeo-Christian scriptures carefully, and if we put E.T. or alien every place you see angel, it begins to make more sense. Angel means messenger. That's all it means. It doesn't mean people had wings. But what it does mean is that our ancient ancestors were trying to tell us that these beings could fly. And if we start looking at some of these stories in light of the knowledge that we have now, it may give us a clue. Now, some people get very nervous about that, Mo. Or what is he saying? God is an astronaut, or there is no God. I don't know what God is. And anybody who says they do, don't know. The finite can never fathom the infinite, even though we do as human beings make God in our own image. However, I think that if we start to read with an open mind, we can see that perhaps these beings helped influence, giving an ignorant people, giving a people that were a tribal people, some guidelines on what it was like or what it can be like to live a different way, to be in good stead with your neighbor, to maybe how to cultivate life on earth, to care for the earth, if you will. Now, of course, things get changed. And so I believe that whether it's Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or Moses or Abraham, if they came back and saw what was going on now in their name, I do believe that they would probably say, listen, gang, this is not what we had in mind. But my thesis, my hypothesis, is that these are ancient astronauts, and I think there are just plenty of clues in the scriptures that talk about this. In certain ways, I'm looking right now in the Hebrew translation of the Old Testament, or what's called the First Testament, the Torah, and I'm looking at Amos chapter 5, and I'm looking at verse 8, and people can look this up. And it says, the Lord is saying, who made the Pleiades and Orion? Now, just that one verse, verse 8, I was taught, and I don't know, maybe you were, maybe you weren't, that the earth was supposed to be flat. People thought the earth was flat until the time of Columbus. Here we have a book written 6,000 years ago, and the planets Orion and the star system Pleiades are mentioned. I find that fascinating. And of course, when I ask in seminary, my professors, I give them credit. They didn't give me a BS answer. They didn't try to they said they didn't know. But again, where are these people getting this information? In the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 9, it says again, who made the bear and Orion Pleiades? When in the book of Isaiah, we have a reference to the earth being a sphere, which is a circle. How did someone in Isaiah's time, for those of you who have a Bible open, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22, it is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain. This is a description, at least in my mind, of someone looking down. The inhabitants are like grasshoppers. The earth is a sphere. Maybe you can tell me, but I don't know how someone 5,000 years ago could know this.
No, it's unique. And then, of course, what is the difference between the Old and the New Testament? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, for me, I like to refer to them as the First and Second Testament because in some ways it can be insulting to Jewish brothers and sisters. Well, that's the old law. This is the time before Jesus. Some Orthodox Christians will say that the First Testament prophesizes the life of Jesus. Scholars would argue that today. Some would, some wouldn't. But basically, the Old Testament, the First Testament are the books of Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, the Exodus. You don't have a Jewish religion until the Exodus. There's the book of the prophets, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and so on, Amos, and so on. And so this is the time before the birth of the prophet Jesus. And so...
And that would start the New Testament after that?
That's what we traditionally call the New Testament.
Okay. And in regards to... go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that those are that's basically the difference. It's the Torah, the first 5 books would be called the Torah, but the whole thing is called the Tanakh, but it's the Jewish Bible. And Jesus would have been familiar with this Bible. This would be the Bible that he studied from because there was no New Testament. It's like Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. Jesus didn't start Christianity. Paul did. Jesus, we do know, was Jewish. And so when he was going to the synagogue, he would be studying the Torah.
Gotcha. And the Creator in the Bible, you have a different definition possibly of the Creator, meaning that I think that Yahweh is an astronaut. I think that Yahweh, to me, if we take it literally, and the difference between me and people who think like me, other clergy, that the liberals say, the progressives say that this is all metaphor. None of this stuff really happened, or a lot of it didn't happen. You have to read it as metaphor. The more fundamentalist or conservative or orthodox brothers and sisters say that it is the Word of God, and it means what it says, and it says what it means, and everything is taken literally. There are lots of contradictions in the Bible. I look at the middle ground, if we are going, that our ancient ancestors were trying to describe to us in their language, in the vernacular of their day, what they were seeing. And so I think that Yahweh is an astronaut. He has temper tantrums. He wants to drown everyone and start all over. He has the Hebrew people going into Canaan, which is into someone else's land, and taking their land, killing men, women, and children. And so I think that this doesn't sound like, it almost sounds like a totally different deity when Jesus comes along thousands of years later, talking about this God of love, this God of mercy, this God of healing. And, there's stories throughout. I mean, you can look in the book of Jeremiah 13, I'm looking at now, and the Lord says, I will smash them one against the other, parents and children alike, declares the Lord. No pity, compassion, or mercy will stop me from destroying them. And I'm not saying that everybody has to do what I do, but I am saying that it was hard for me to kneel down and to talk to someone who would do that. That's just me. I'm not saying anyone else has to do that. If we look in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 12, we have the Lord telling Ezekiel to eat excrement. No, you're not going to hear this on Sunday mornings. But here we have Ezekiel chapter 4, the book of the prophets, verse 12. Eat it as a barley cake. You shall bake it on human excrement,
before their eyes. So said the Lord, shall the people of Israel eat their bread unclean among the nations to which I will banish them. And then I said, being Ezekiel, Lord God, my person was never defiled. I've never eaten anything that died of itself or was torn by beasts from my youth until now, nor has foul flesh entered my mouth. In other words, I've kept kosher. And the Lord answered me, see, okay, I allow you cow's dung instead of human excrement. Prepare your bread on that. So we have Yahweh saying, okay, don't eat the manure, don't eat human excrement, eat cow's dung instead. And, I just had to say, now, wait a minute. Let's look at this. Yahweh, the Jewish people were very tribal people, and the Ten Commandments, if you will, some people call them 10 suggestions, but the 10 Commandments were only for the Jewish people. You didn't covet your Jewish neighbor's property. You didn't sleep with your Jewish neighbor's wife. Of course, you stayed away from the Gentiles. They were uncircumcised. They were unclean. So this did not extend to others. It could not extend to others. Otherwise, you couldn't have people going into the promised land, killing and raping and pillaging and saying, I'm going to take your land because the Lord told me to. Of course, Native Americans can probably relate to those stories very well. As the Christians come in and say, this is what we're supposed to do because our God told us to. And so I just started looking at things with a critical eye. And started to say, now, wait a minute, what's actually going on here? Now, to bring that to a UFO, a strictly UFO perspective, in the book of Exodus, the Jewish people, and we can get to Jesus later, but, they're following something called the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Interesting story. Even today, a lot of UFO sightings, a lot of craft lead. Sometimes they travel in the clouds. They use clouds at times to camouflage themselves. But what they're saying is this is a cloud by day, and at night it glows. It's a pillar of fire by night. And so they follow this. When they camp out, it hovers above them. This is when they fled Egypt. They fled Egypt. And so, of course, and then the UFO helps drown the Egyptians in the Red Sea. And so they wander, it says, for 40 years. We don't know if that was exactly 40 years or just a figure of speech, but for a long time they're in the desert, and this craft is above them. This is at least a UFO. It is unidentified, and it is flying, and it is intelligently guided. It follows them. They follow it. It leads them. This is a craft. For those who may be getting a little nervous and excited, I just want to point out, again, there are contradictions in the Bible. If we go to Exodus chapter 33, it says that the Lord spoke to Moses face to face. This is verse 11. The Lord spoke to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. And then just a few short verses down in verse 20, it says, you cannot see my face, for no man, this is Moses, you cannot see my face, for no man can see me and live. Well, which is it? Can I not see your face? Or did I just see your face? You just spoke to me face to face as a man speaks to a friend. And I just started looking. Now, for me, this doesn't take away faith, if you will, but it makes me use my mind, which the Creator gave me, which nature gave me, call it what you will, instead of just saying that, just believing things critically and not thinking, not looking, not delving, not studying.
Yeah, what's interesting to me, Rev. Carter, is that before this, again, would be considered heretical, and the only church in town at one time before, of course, the Renaissance and the Reformation would have been the Catholic Church, and they pretty much guided what would be taught and what would be told to the people. Do you believe that we're going into these times where these revelations, such as what you're making now in your book, The Alien Scriptures, are going to come more to the forefront of the public?
They already are. This is why there are other clergy. My colleague, Dr. Barry Downing, wrote a book back in 1968, The Bible and Flying Saucers. He's been on the show. Virginia Brasington wrote a book called UFOs in the Bible back in the 50s. Ted Peters is reissuing a second edition of the book, Flying Saucers, God's Chariots. He's the systematic theology professor at Pacific Lutheran Seminary, I think out near you. And so this is already, everything is being revealed. As a matter of fact, the Vatican had an ET conference back in 2009. You can look it up on the internet that Ted Peters was there. And so I feel that we will have a disclosure. Either there's going to be a sighting that cannot be explained away. I'm sorry, Ted Peters is at Pacific Lutheran Theological Seminary in Berkeley. And he's reissuing his book in 2014. But he was at it says in a 2008 interview, astronomer and Vatican Observatory Director Jose Gabriel Funes says that the Catholic Church wouldn't have a problem with the idea of intelligent life elsewhere in the cosmos. Well, I think that's wonderful, but I also think it's timely because they know just like other governments know, that the lid's going to come off of this thing. And we're going to have to face this. Other countries do. Mexico has released their files. France, Britain, the United States is the only country, and I understand why, because we got a lot of guilt about a lot of things. But we say we don't. There's no such thing as UFOs, but then we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of classified documents to prove that we don't. What do you need to classify stuff for if they don't exist?
And then the sightings as well. So no, I agree on the classification. Of course, it becomes a conspiracy where there's no conclusion because, there's not a official press release either from the government or actual evidence where they're showing to it. But there's people such as yourself, Rev Carter, that have had these experiences with these beings. And there's, if not hundreds of thousands of these, there's millions of these sightings over the last 100 years since we've been reporting on it. And of course, history, like you said, over the last 5,000 years, written history, there's, in the Torah, there's writings that are questionable that, of course, could be connected, like you said, where you could replace angel with ET, and it starts making more sense. And it's just, It's interesting. Do you believe that aliens from another world and a high-tech culture created us humans here on Earth?
I believe that they do. I believe that they did. I believe that if we go back, and Zachariah Sitchin's work is wonderful on this, on his books called The Earth Chronicles, when he talks about the Elohim. And this Zachariah Sitchin, I met him once when he was still alive. We used to live near each other in New York. And here's a man who is Jewish, and he says that there's a mistranslation that the word Elohim in Genesis 6 means plural. It means gods. It doesn't mean what, and so other people said, well, maybe God is talking to his angels or what have you. I don't know if that's it, but the word Elohim means God in Hebrew means plural. So that means there's more than one God. There's more than one entity here. And whether you go back to the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Sumerian scriptures, if you go back to some Native American cosmologies where they all talk about the star people, everyone has a story about gods, ETs, call them what you will, having a hand in creating us. And so whether we look at the book of Enoch, where it talks about it even more, it expounds more on Genesis 6, where it says the sons of God came down to earth and mated with the daughters of men. And then they created giants and hybrids. So they were making love with earth women. I mean, this is in Genesis 6. And if you go, and the book of Enoch talks more and more about it. And I think, we've got, and I think that's one of the reasons people have been so, powers that be have been so reluctant, because it will change the whole way we look at life. It would change energy. Suppose we got technology. Well, we're getting technology from crash saucers. All this stuff is alien technology, I believe. And just think what they haven't told us about. But suppose we met an extraterrestrial intelligence, because they're all different. They're different races. I've seen at least two races, the reptilians and the short ones with the large heads, and they weren't gray, and they're different species of gray. So we must be careful, because we'll stereotype all of them. When you talk about extraterrestrials, you got to say, well, which ones are you talking about? You can't just say, well, what do the aliens want? Well, which ones are you talking about? But human beings, we like to do that. We do that with people. It's called stereotyping. But suppose we wouldn't need oil, fossil fuels, for instance. Suppose there was an energy that we could use, maybe it's solar, but that we wouldn't. So there goes BP, there goes Exxon. Suppose there were cures for cancer and AIDS, which there probably are anyway, that we don't know about. But then there goes the medical community. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about a whole new paradigm. We're talking about a new age, if you will. But who wants to give up? Who wants? I'm a healer. I do Reiki healing. I don't know what I'm doing now, because I don't know what kind of energy is coming through my hands now from the contacts. I do know it's very powerful. But suppose I go out here and I start curing people of cancer. Everybody's not going to be happy about that, because I'm taking money from corporations and stuff. We'll have no more, we're going to jog for cancer now. Let's jog for the cure. Well, we don't need to, because Michael and other people like him can pray over you or put their hands over you and your cancer's gone. Or maybe the extraterrestrials bring us some way to deal with this through technology or healing, some type of healing modalities. Oh, my God, we don't want that. There's too much money to be made. There's too much money to be made.
What happens to and you got to imagine the trickle-down effect, because I imagine the governments that rule over us, they were almost kind of ruled over, say, as sheep. They herd us to where they want us to go as far as how they are managing society. And part of that is that they put the monetary system on us where we have to make money. And then, of course, if these technologies come down, it's a trickle-down effect where if there's no BP, there's no more millions of jobs in the oil industry, and it goes everywhere around. So all of a sudden, we're now all connected and essentially a community. And some people would say that's communism, and it's bad.
Sure.
And I think, of course, some things could be bad, but I see it as good. And money has brought terrible things, and it still does, to this planet. And there's doctors giving chemo to people who don't need it just to make a profit. And I've read these stories myself and seen them get sentenced to prison. So, yeah, something hopefully needs to change, and the work such as you're doing will help do that. Where do you think these aliens might come from, or what planet? Like, for example, we have the Jewish people and Yahweh. And it seems that they are a specific race or a specific sons of God or alien race from a specific planet that don't want to deal with anybody else from the other planets. Do you believe that it's somewhat like that?
No. Well, yes and no. I mean, I don't know where they come from. And so I don't even know what to speculate. But you did touch on something very important. Yahweh chooses, these people choose Yahweh, and Yahweh is jealous of the other gods. You can't have any other gods before me. And people are saying, yes, that means you can't have money as a god or sex as a god. And that's true. Where your heart is, your treasure is. But there are also other beings that he doesn't want them to worship. And we've been told, well, they're just statues. You can't worship graven images. No, but you want to know what people are doing, all you got to do is read about what they're being told not to do. When the Ten Commandments say you're not supposed to be sleeping with your neighbor's wife, that's because people were doing it. When the Ten Commandments say you shouldn't covet your neighbor's property, that's because people were doing it. So you can look at the laws and rules, and that'll tell you what folks are doing. But Yahweh wants to have this tribe of people. He's very concerned about the sexuality of them. They all have to be circumcised. Have to be circumcised. You got to be circumcised if you're going to be in this club. Most of the women, whether it's Samson's wife who has no name in the Bible, or whether it's Elizabeth, John the Baptist's mom, or of course there's Miriam, Mary, Jesus' mother, there's Sarah. These women are all barren. they're all past the age of having children, and yet Gabriel's got the best job in the world. He's even in the Quran. And I'm being facetious, but when he comes to a woman, she winds up pregnant. Okay? She winds up pregnant. If Gabriel comes to your house, I told my wife the other day, I said, don't tell me that someone named Gabriel came here if I go away for a while. I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me some angel came and this is what happened. Of course, she thought I was being crude, but I was trying to just add some humor to it. But when these angels come, you get pregnant, and they're all special. Samson has the locks and the long hair, and he's with the supernatural, superhuman strength. We have Elizabeth. Okay, John the Baptist doesn't have physical strength, but he has the power of oratory, and he's the way shower before Jesus, and he draws people in. So he has his own, the Essenes, if you will. He has his own tribe, if you will, but he's preparing the way. He's preparing the way. Samuel, the angel comes and tells Samuel, the prophet, that your son's going to be special. And of course we have the ultimate of that in Jesus, who says his Father is not of this world. And so if your father's not human and your mother is human, that makes you only what? Half human.
Tells you right there.
Yeah. If we take the story for what it says. Now, there's other ways to look at it. But again, there's a star in the sky. They're following the star, the three wise men. Now, we know stars don't move across the heavens. We'd have tsunamis and tidal waves. The whole gravitational pull of the earth would change if just one star decided tonight, you know what, I'm tired of sitting here tonight. I think I'm going to move a little closer. Maybe I'll move closer to China. And then we have the star stops over a manger and shines a light down. So now not only does the star move, but it has the capability of putting a flashlight down. A high-powered lights down. Now, you can say it's all BS, which some people do, and that's fine. Or you could say, well, that's what it is, and if they said it, that's what happened. And, of course, leaving your mind at the door. Or you can start thinking, okay, maybe it did happen, but how could that happen? What technology can make that happen?
You believe this technology comes from them, and they had left us?
I can tell you, I just got a new cell phone the other day and a tablet. That technology is coming from them. Look at this. Look at the leap in technology just from Roswell up until now. Read Lieutenant Corso's book, the day after Roswell. He talks about the fiber optics that they found from crashed saucers. He talks about how government back engineering crashes probably before the 50s, but he talks about that at great length in his book. He talks about night vision goggles that we got from crash and down craft. He talks about even Velcro, I think he said, we got from this alien technology. And look at the stealth bomber. Does that look like a ship to you? It's silent when it flies.
It escapes radar.
Where did all the drones? Where's all this just coming from a microchip? And this is what they're telling that we have. The government created the internet back in what, the 60s, 70s?
Yeah, that's interesting.
This stuff. But the only sad thing about it, and Dr. King talked about it, and people, that our spirituality has not caught up with the technology, and so we can destroy ourselves 10 times over. And we've probably done it before in Atlantis, other civilizations, and we just don't get it. That there's a certain amount of maturity you have to have in order to use this stuff.
Yeah, and do you believe that the purpose was to create us and give us free will, and they watch over us and release things at certain times when they deem it necessary?
I don't know what the purpose is, but I do know the purpose that I have discovered in the 57 summers that I've been on this planet is to learn to grow, to evolve, and learn to love.
Simple.
That's what I find that the meaning of life is. That's what we're here to do, to learn our lessons and to learn to love.
And it's one of the hardest things for a lot of people to do out there.
It's hard for me to do. There's people I don't want to love. It's not only that I don't love them, I don't want to love them. And I'm just going to be candid. But every day I say I grow. And I try to, doesn't mean I have to be best friends with people. There are people out here that do heinous things to other people. I don't want to love them. But I have to. That doesn't mean kumbaya, but it means I respect you because you are a child of the universe and that you breathe the same air I breathe. My brother was murdered back in 95. I don't want to love the person who shot my brother. But I've forgiven that person. I never got a chance to meet him. They never caught him. My brother-in-law was murdered. My ex-brother-in-law was murdered 2 summers ago in broad daylight in Brooklyn. I don't want to love them. But I know if I'm going to be the person I say I want to be, the person I need to be, the person I'm meant to be and called to be, then that's what it's about. It's about walking the walk.
And love has a lot to do with that. And I like how you say that is you don't necessarily have to, hug them and, be their best buddies, but we have to love. And a lot of these people that might have did wrong to us, we have to forgive in order to grow and to move forward. And as you say, evolve. And
you have to evolve. You have to transform, yeah. I mean, Jesus forgave the people who put him on a cross. Whether you believe the story, whether it happened, he rose from the dead, blah, 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 it's a lovely story. But this man forgave the people who put him on the cross. Can I do less? If I'm going to say that's the type of person, and you don't have to be a Christian to do that. You can be an atheist and do that. Greater love has no one that when they lay down their life for their friends. That doesn't mean you have to die. That may mean you make certain sacrifices so others may have. But you die to yourself daily when you deny your lower instincts and you connect with the higher. But you got Christians out here talking about they want to go to war. Got Christians out here talking about want to have the death penalty. Now, I'm not trying to put Christianity on anybody because I'm not. People who are Christian probably say this guy's not a Christian at all. And I'm probably not the way they would define it. But I define my own beliefs and political alliances. I don't have anybody define those for me, but I'm just saying that at least in my life, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I have discovered that life is about learning to love. Not just other people, but myself. And that the ETs that I have had contact with, I'm not denying people who've been taken on ships and have their sperm taken and stuff put in their rectums and women had ovum taken. I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm sure that's happened to you, but that hasn't happened to me. And my spiritual growth was accelerated. It has been accelerated. And the people who came to me have brought me a profound peace. So just like other people have a right to say the aliens I experienced were bad, if you want to call it bad, and they did this, that, okay, fine, you can have that, but don't lay that on me because that's not my experience. It's the same thing with religion or politics. If that works for you, fine. I hope you find peace with it, but that doesn't work for me. And I need to have a right. As a matter of fact, it is my right to be able to choose the path I want to walk in life and not have someone else choose that for me. Because, when you're happy and serene and at least at peace, that doesn't mean you don't have trouble in your life. But, people who are like that, they don't feel a need to take other people's inventory. They don't feel a need to tell other people how they should live. They just live their lives. And their lives are the greatest sermon you will ever hear because you'll see it in action.
No, I agree, Rev Carter, and I agree that this isn't a plan, to essentially enslave us indefinitely for forever in some eternal hell where we're, slaves to these corporations and these monetary gods who place themselves up there and the media. that, we have to play a part of the game because, here we are in the United States of America and we have to pay taxes and part of this machine, and I know part of it deals with war and the governments and so forth. What's your thoughts on the governments? Are they part of this alien culture that's ruling over us? Are they all one big alien family? What are your thoughts? Have you dealt into that at all?
I have, but I'm not one that looks at it in that particular way. I mean, because I don't want to paint a whole bunch of people with a wide brush. There are some people who are aware of what's going on, and there are some people who are not aware of what's going on. And people say, well, how can people keep a secret for 50, 60 years? Well, that's how you do it, because you don't let one hand know what the other hand is doing. But all I can say is there are less evolved people in the government. Now, people may not like this. I know there's a certain senator who was a POW in Vietnam and is now a politician, and this man has never met a war he hasn't liked. Whether it's going into Syria or whether it's going into Iraq or going to he's a hawk. And I know a lot of vets. And sometimes I know vets, I meet vets. No one wants peace more than someone who's seen war, because they know how inhumane it is. But there are some folks, maybe that's just their spirit. They're just warrior spirits. But that doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work anymore. And now there's a way we need to cooperate with people. Let me tell you, there has been some evolution. I don't want to paint a picture of nihilism and hopelessness, because that's not what I believe. But I believe the reason that we haven't been into Syria, yes, Kerry wants to, and not just Kerry, but it's all about diplomacy. And yes, of course it is. But the reason, I believe the real reason that we're not there is because the American people won't stand for it. We're tired of Afghanistan's and Vietnam's and Bush the Younger and Bush the Elder having us. If you want to send my son or daughter to war, you need to tell me why, and you need to spell it out for me. And we can't do that, so we didn't go in. But 10 or 15 years ago, I don't care if Obama was Caesar or George Bush was Caesar, or whoever was Caesar, we'd have been in there. Our troops our legions, because we are the Roman Empire, reincarnated, our legions would have been there lickety-split. But we're not there. We're not there.
Things seem to be changing. What are your thoughts with the changes in the Catholic Church from, the resignation all of a sudden of Pope Benedict, and then we have Pope Francis, who appears to be more like Jesus and walking the walk, and publicly, almost daily, weekly, he's coming out with statements against corruption, against corporations, against the monetary system. Do you feel that he's signaling to what is to come?
I was reading about him today. He's Time Man of the Year. The jury's still out. First of all, the Catholic Church needs to investigate the Catholic Church. They're the richest entity on the face of the planet. How'd they get their money? We don't even want to go into it. You don't have enough time to go into it.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm saying, get the speck out of Jonah. I'm all for goodness. I love it. I'm glad Francis is speaking out. I'm glad. But charity begins where? At home. So look into your own backyard first. That's number one. Number two, the Catholic Church, not Catholic people, the Catholic Church has been behind so much stuff that I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I know that the Catholic Church, at least from my studies, is going to be, when it's announced that they're alien, that they're other civilizations, the Catholic Church is going to be on the forefront of that. That's why they have conferences in 2008, 2009, that the media doesn't tell us about. You got to go on the Internet and read the Huffington Post, those kinds of things. So I don't trust the Catholic Church as an entity, to be honest with you. And so I know a lot of people are throwing their underwear up on the stage to Francis, but let's just wait and see.
Yeah, so your thoughts...
I mean, he's only been Pope 9 months, and he's a rock star. And I'm like, I'm not buying it yet. I love it that he's doing this, that he's speaking out. Let's see, now that you said it, now make the word become flesh. We hear the word, the word unfettered capitalism is not good for the planet. Those are the words. Now, what's the Catholic Church going to do? What actions are you taking to set that example? Because unfettered capitalism is how you got to be the empire that you are.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So that's just Michael. That's just Michael's opinion. I'm holding off on that.
Yeah, it's a simple opinion of, talk the talk but walk the walk, and
yeah, what are you going to do? The Vatican has more money than the Creator, and they're going to talk about unfettered capitalism. But you can't have it both ways. I mean, I'm loving that he's saying it. It's symbolic. But so we're going to show you that unfettered capitalism and how screwed up it is to our planet and to people. What we're going to do as a church, we're going to spend such and such money. We're going to donate such and such of our fortune to ABCD. Oh, then I'll say, okay, Pope Francis, that's okay. I'm feeling you. But just to come out and say unfettered capitalism is bad, well, of course, Stevie Wonder can see that. Ray Charles can see that. You and I can see that. And in 9 months, he's the man of the year. I mean, I'm like, wow, you want to talk about celebrity culture. I remember when Obama, and I voted for Obama, and I put my politics out there, and, I was like, hey, it can't get any worse. We see what these white brothers can do. Let's see what a brother's going to do. But the point being is just that, you got the Nobel Peace Prize, and then the next day you sent, 30 to 60,000? The next day you sent 30 to 60,000 more men and women to Afghanistan. I thought it was called the Nobel Peace Prize. That's what I thought it was called.
Yeah, truth is lies, and
like,
lies
wow.
is truth, and war is peace, right?
Yes. And, Tracy Chapman, what did she talk? What did she say in her song? You just quoted some other. Missiles are called peacemakers. Missiles kill people. They're not peacemakers. Peacekeepers. Peacekeeping missiles. We have peacekeeping missiles in certain countries. It's like an oxymoron. It's like jumbo shrimp. but people say, our planet, people say, especially here, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Jumbo
we don't even
shrimp,
think about
I like that analogy.
Yeah, jumbo shrimp, peacekeeping missiles.
The Pope Francis did issue a legal edict to all the public officials of the Roman Curia. Again, I don't know who that is, but I wanted to bring that to your attention, and I believe that was in July.
I want to say this. Part of this is my bias now. I mean, people are going to listen, and listen, people out there. I have my prejudices and biases too. I just know that I'm going to be slow to throw my things up on the stage because it's just been so much duplicity and complicity, not just in the Catholic Church, but we're talking about that particularly, that this guy's been in 9 months.
Yeah, no.
And he's got the world by the short and curlies. And I don't believe in this kind of talk, but I mean, you know what? He could be the Antichrist for all we know. and in 9 months, you see how quick we give our power away? This guy's been Pope 9 months.
Yep. Time man of the year as well.
And like I said, I'm not a big I don't know what that means, and it could be a country, it could be a person, but in 9 months, this person has the whole world by the short and curlies.
Yeah, it's a unique situation.
That concerns me.
What are your thoughts on biblical revelations and end times? Do you believe that we're seeing those times now?
No, I believe every ending is a new beginning. I do believe that if 30 billion people believe that we can actually make it happen because we know thoughts are things. And if 30 million people think that we're going to blow each other up and that can happen, I don't know, Jesus is going to come again on the clouds or whatever, but we can make a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if we had 30 million people thinking about, to keep doing what we're doing now, to think about peace instead of war to think about how do we look at our differences and dealing with racism and homophobia and disempowering women. We've got enough homework to do. If we could all concentrate on that, then we could make a better world. But for me, every ending is a new beginning. There is no death because the body will die, but whether you believe in whether it's religious concept or whatever, we know that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just is, and it just transforms itself. So, eventually this body I have will die, but I won't die. My energy will go into some other form. So every ending is a new beginning. And that's the thing with when people who think in linear time, and there is a feeling that we're headed towards something as a species. But life is not linear; it's cyclical. And the thing is to learn from the previous cycles, so we don't make the same mistakes.
That's evolving, correct?
That's what I call it: self-transformation, self-awareness to evolve.
And Rev Carter,
it's hard to do that.
It is. It's harder than ever, and especially in this world. And I love that you bring up energy as well, and you being a man of the cloth, and you're a reverend and so forth, and you're also a man into alternative knowledge and study. It's interesting that you bring up energy as well, and I feel that love, when they tell us that we need to love, that's important for our energy, because when we do the opposite, we change our energy. And that's where, even though our energies are eternal, I have a feeling that we can change those energies while we live. And it's all how we live and how we evolve. So if we want to evolve, we need to love, and we need to stay in that natural childlike state. So when we do die, we do truly evolve our energies. That's kind of my take on it. And I love that you had brought that up. So I wanted to kind of give you my thoughts on that. And I believe it all comes back to love and flowing and not hating. And, it's okay to get mad and so forth, but not let it consume you. Do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. And cause us to go into violence. That's the ultimate. Now, yes, I mean, if you have to defend your family or what have you, we're not discussing that. But what we are discussing is, just that we believe in separateness so much, and we believe that if someone has something, then we'll have less. And so there's not enough love to go around. There's not enough anger to go around. There's not enough, there's not enough codependence to go. Believe me, there's enough for everybody. And we need to keep that in mind.
I agree, Rev Carter. Who are the people that inspire you?
Well, Dr. Barry Downing, who's my friend and mentor, his first book, UFOs and the Bible, obviously Dr. King, people like Rosa Parks, and just sometimes, and I have some good friends that are not called to be these kind of, these people I named are just human, just like we are. I mean, they're not doing anything we couldn't do. It's just what their destiny was. But I have just friends around me that I look at them and I see how open they are to life and how they deal with some of the setbacks to life and how they keep their integrity and their dignity. And they're fallible. When they're wrong, they make mistakes, they admit it. If they're feeling scared or they don't know something, they say it rather than pretending they know or that kind of thing. And these are just ordinary people who get up and go to work just like we do every day.
And that's great. And closing here, the last 5 minutes, you have a new season of Ancient Aliens where you're discussing the holy relics like the Ark of the Covenant and the Shroud of the Turin. Can you tell us a little bit about that or when that'll come out?
I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's been on. We were talking about the power of relics, what makes people believe in them. Is there any truth to the power of relics? Those types of things, which are really important questions, I believe. The Shroud of Turin, I mean, I don't know. The jury's still out, at least for me. Again, if that is the relic, if that's the burial cloth of Jesus. And if it is, hallelujah, if it's not, hallelujah, because the point is that how is it going to change me to live my life? That's, to me, what it always comes back to. We could find one of the nails that pierced his hand, and we could find, one of the cross and the splinters, and that's fine, believe me. But is it going to make you a more loving person? If it's going to make you a more compassionate person, if it's going to make you a more authentic and integrated person, that's what I'm interested in. Because otherwise, what is the point?
I agree. We could be spinning our wheels forever, and I'm glad that you're making that point. It's important that we share knowledge and we pursue knowledge, but it really comes down to the simple things that you state, and that's what it is about. And what I love is that you're doing that. You pursued one path while you were, in New York and the narcissistic type lifestyle, and then you went down another path and you wanted to serve, and you're doing that. And you're also, pursuing knowledge as well, but you're maintaining strong roots with your family, there, and then also your community with your church. So that's great that you're doing that. And I hope more people out there could follow in your footsteps. And, I recommend you check out his book, Alien Scriptures. Where is the best place for people to find your work and also, of course, this great book of yours?
Oh, thank you. We can go on Amazon.com. The paperback is, I think, $10, or it may have even gone down to $7.77, but it's $10 tops. And there's a Kindle edition, which is $4.99. You can go on Barnes and Nobles and do the same thing. There's a paperback edition as well as a Kindle edition, and a Nook edition. Or you could go to my website, which is Michael J, initial J as in Jerry, S as in Sam Carter. michaeljscarter.com, and you can definitely find it there. And you can contact me if you want, disagree, call me names, or tell me what you think. You can go to my Facebook page, Alien Scriptures, Michael Carter at Alien Scriptures.
Great, that's awesome. And what's next for you? What's the future?
I don't know right now. It's the season, and I'm putting most of my energy into my church. I have a small congregation here in western North Carolina, and it's holiday season, and it's going to be busy right up until the Easter holidays. So that's where I'm putting my energy now. There may be another book coming. I may do another edition of this book where I add some stuff. I added some things. I added a chapter on the Quran, so if people buy it, they'll get that. I added some lessons that I've learned from my own contact experiences and what that has meant for me spiritually. And I want to put in the verses in the Old and New Testament where you can find some of the things I was talking about that can give us food for thought about, as we're talking about ancient astronauts. I didn't put that into the book, and I think I want to add that. Just the verses from the Old and New Testament that I think are UFO related.
No, that'd be great. I think a lot of people would be interested in that, because I was definitely interested when you started making those correlations. And this is definitely a great path that you're on, and interesting one at that. And you're walking the walk, Rev Carter. So you're an inspiration to us all. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to a conversation in the future.
All right, my brother. Take good care. Peace be with you. Have a wonderful holiday season of anticipation, of expectation, of new beginnings, and peace to you and your family.
That's wonderful, and peace to you, brother, and happy holidays. Until next time, take care.
All right. Peace be with you.
Peace.